Alright, welcome to Phyre Dojo again. So today I am testing out a hand drill set that's in order for someone, and before anything ships out it has to be tested so that I know for a fact that everything works through proof and evidence, right? So our stalk today is prickly lettuce, scientifically known as Lactuca Serriola, and this one is 1/2 inch diameter at the base. It's already been tested, okay, and our bento box base case is redwood, which is scientifically known as Sequoia, Sempervirens. Now, when people place an order, they not only get the materials engraved, okay, but they can get another engraving on the back of the HearthBoard. So some people have their name. 2 people had the names of their school on the back instead. I mean, you can have whatever you want on here. This person who made this order wants the sacred order of shelter, water, fire, food, which is pretty cool. But it's personalized so that you know it's your set. So 60 sockets, 60 notches, and 2 elastics to hold everything in. Base case holds the spindle in, keeps it protected, can't get smashed. Okay. Bases are 24 inches long, 2 feet long, and spindles are just over 22 inches to fit in the, this is called a flute, in this flute section. Alright, and I had tried to previously test with this socket before, but the spindle I was using just broke on me, so I know, because I test things, that spindle was no good. So we're doing a new spindle, and first we're going to have to do those 3 steps that we're very familiar with. Mate it together, and then 2 is warm up and fill the notch, and 3 is ignite. Okay, so this last one that I had tried with, which is still usable, was 7/16 of an inch, which is a just 1/16 smaller than this one, because this is 1/2 inch. So we're going to do a new notch. So I'm going to raise the floor a little bit with some sawdust. You can see that there's nothing there right now. I'm going to raise up that floor. What does raising the floor do? Well, raising the floor means you spend less time and less energy filling the notch to get it to ignite, right? That makes sense. And as always with hand drill, one little dab of any good hand lotion to do mainly 2 things. One is, well, I have dry hands because I work with my hands all the time, okay? And when your hands are dry, you have no friction with the stalk. If the stalk is dry and your hands are dry, there's no friction to have a grip between your hands and the stalk, which is why you see people spit on their hands that know hand drill, and because they know they're not going to have a grip. So, but I'm not going to spit on somebody's stalk, obviously, either. So, but the thing about any good hand lotion is once you rub that 1 or 2 drops in, it's not greasy anymore. You actually have a nice natural friction that will grip the stalk. Okay, so there's no grease anymore, like there's actual friction. And of course the important component is that it protects your hands a little bit. You have to always take care of your hands when you're doing hand drilling. Okay, so again today we're going to do some floating. Floating requires 3 more components rather than just pressure. Okay, now the thing about hand drill is that you are the pressure. You have to put your body weight on this and push down on it. But when I select a stalk for these sets, in my opinion, the hand drills that are best are ones that are floating capable, which means that they have the hardness and density to back off on pressure, which by the way will harm your hands. You'll get blisters and eventually calluses, and that really goes against the long-term values of trying to do fire keeping. Okay, so you have to maintain your health, and you should not sacrifice your health to do hand drill. And hand drill is the one that is going to hurt you all the time if you're not careful. Okay, and mastering the floating technique over the standard technique of just using a lot of pressure and going down, as well as making sure that the materials you're using are not too hard. If this is too dense, you're going to need to apply too much pressure and you're going to hurt your hands. They're going to blister and you're going to callus. Okay, so floating. So I have what I think is an appropriate density stalk to do floating. Now floating is, again, palm to fingertip as far as you can go. Palm to fingertip as far as you can go. Okay. Palm to fingertip to the base of your palm. Okay. So that's rotations. That's how many spins you can get. A lot of spin. All right. And the second thing is speed. And the third thing is time and duration. Okay, you're going to want to just relax, just lean on it, and just be patient. Okay, it's not a race trying to get it as quickly as possible. All right, so let's see how this goes. You get my form down. So it's mating, and we can see some dust starting to form on the bottom. Now again, rotations and speed, rotations and speed, rotations and speed. And I'm just gonna relax and do a rundown and just fall down. Looks like a cold me, right? It's gonna glow. And as again, the base case is designed to not lose your coal, because it's contained in the flute space. So then you take your board, got your tinder bundle, you put your coal in your tinder bundle, and light your TP fire. Right? And then, of course, you would put your set away, right? So no one can step on it, break your spindle, right? So protects your spindle. All right, so if you have any questions or comments, I'm at the other end of an email, Facebook, Instagram, and all that good stuff. So, and not sure what I'm doing next, but you'll see something else every week. All right, let's keep going. So I was on Facebook Marketplace a little while ago, which is a dangerous place for me to be, and I came across a guy in the next town over who was getting rid of some wood and saying it's free firewood if you want it. Well, it turns out that he had fell a bunch of black walnuts and a little bit of tulip poplar and some cherry, and so I got in contact with him and I grabbed my trailer and I went over, and he was very nice. With my chainsaw, I cut up a couple pieces and brought them home, and here's what I have. So he had some really large black walnuts that he had cut down, and they were select, meaning that there was no branching, like they were nearly perfect. And I told him, look, this is not firewood. Like, you can get slab boards out of these, and these are worth a lot of money. So and I kept telling them that over and over again. I'm like, look, this is not firewood. Anyway, there were a couple small sections that would not be used for boards, but I could use for possibly hearth boards in the future. So I'm not using these as firewood, but I'm going to figure out a way to board these up, slab these. What you're looking at here are some black walnuts, and what we're looking at here is some tulip poplar. Now this was really, really nice tulip poplar because it has a lot of colorful streaking in it. Sometimes in woodworking it's known as rainbow tulip poplar, which really doesn't mean anything. It's tulip poplar with colorful streaks in it. So, but when you're woodworking with it, it makes it rather nice. So I had no space left in my house to put these, so what I did was I took apart my firewood rack stand and lengthened it so that I could put the black walnut and the tulip poplar down below it so that it would season a bit. It has to season anyway, and then I just put my firewood back on top of it. I had to redo it anyway because the bottom supports were just sinking into the ground and leaning, so I put these 4x4s underneath so that it wouldn't go anywhere. Anyway, I've got at least a year or a year and a half before these are seasoned enough for me to start working with anyway. So anyway, that's that. So I do a lot of driving between all my nursing and fusion jobs, and what I do is I keep supplies in my Jeep to do random harvesting, especially if I know that I'm not going to be in that area ever again that year. And if I come across something, like this is the opportunity to harvest it right there and then. And now that it's fall, anything that goes beyond this time is just going to be deteriorated. Even if I get back there sometime, it's going to be useless to harvest later. It's just going to be too far gone. So you have to, when you're harvesting, you have to just take the opportunity of the time that you are right there. And so I pull over and I take off as much leaves and the tops and hopefully any thorns or needles, especially like on thistles. I take them off as much as possible, and I cut them to at least a 2.5 foot length at a minimum if I think it's hand drill material. But and then I put it in a can that I leave in my Jeep, because before I did that, I was just putting it in my Jeep, and my Jeep would always be just a mess. So over the years, I've gotten a little better at how I do my collection. And one of these days soon, I'm going to be doing a video on exactly what my harvesting process is when I'm doing that, and all the supplies that I have, my strategy for how I kind of, without telling anyone, because I'm just I'm on the side of the road, how it looks like that I actually belong there, and I don't draw as much suspicion while I'm harvesting on the side of the road. So here I am, taking what I've harvested, and I'm just doing a secondary preliminary cleaning up and figuring out what I really have. Because when I'm harvesting on the side of the road, my goal is to just collect it and put it in the Jeep and then look at it later. Even though I do my best that when I'm harvesting it, that it is actually worth harvesting. Like, is it worth my time? Is it the proper diameter? Is it straight enough? Will this just fall apart later? So there's a ton of questions that I go over before I cut it down and harvest it. So here I'm basically doing also a sorting while I'm cleaning to figure out what I have, and let's see what I've got. Alright, so how did we do? Well, in my travels I found some milkweed that's very old, and I'll see how that strips down for some cordage. It's useless as a hand drill. It's way too fragile. This here is all yucca. This is my yield from the yucca, and look at this one. This one's at least 1.5 inches across the base. That's almost a sodal from the southwest. That one's amazing. That's a lot of yucca, right? This is a bull thistle that we got here. Now for the bull thistle, online, I ordered these needle-proof gloves. Hex Armor, the 9014, and they're used for, they're anti-puncture, meaning like, I'm a nurse, right? So, and I'm around needles a lot. And the orange, you notice the orange is not on the back, but the orange is the protective material, and needles do not go through that. So I like to strip the thistles, the needles, with these gloves. They work pretty well. These are goldenrods. I'm not sure, I think these are seaside goldenrods. They're the cluster type goldenrod, and I think they're one of the best. Now these are green still, okay. They weren't collected alive, meaning that they had gone to seed and they're on their way out dying. Okay, so in ethical collection, you just don't collect a plant before it's gone to seed. It's not mature. It didn't finish its life cycle. Okay. Now, goldenrod is one of those late flowering plants, and I would never collect goldenrod, mugwort. What's another one? Late flowering thoroughwort. And I think there's another. But these, you gotta wait for them to sit outside through the winter and collect them in the spring. Those ones. Now this one is because you want them to soften up for a floating type hand drill, okay, that's when I would collect it. Because I collected this green and it's going to sit inside, it's going to be a harder density. I would never use this for floating. I wouldn't even use it for a hand drill because in using pressure, that would hurt your hands because it's too dense. So I might use them for mouth drill pieces, mouth drill reloads. Here's some MULLEIN. This is a pretty good size one. The bottom of this one's going to be like a bow drill spindle. Alright, this is probably a hand drill right here. Here's another bow drill or mouth drill spindle. These are all Amaranth. We got a ton of Amaranth around here in Jersey, and they look green, but they're dying. They've gone to seed. They're on their way out. We already had our frosts, some frost here, so they're pretty much on their way out. So ethically, they were collected after they had done their reproduction cycle, and they were dying for the winter. This is my one and only PILEWORT, which I don't recommend. It's very fragile. But what you need to know about PILEWORT is at the very base, the bottom is thick. However, as soon as you get past the base here, it's very, very thin. In fact, right now here, I don't know if you can see, it's imploding up here. See, it's almost like it's pushed in. That's because it's so thin that it shrinks. So these ones are giant ragweed, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. Those are some nice ones. And finally, we have some wild lettuce, or Canada lettuce. These are really, they get really, really thin at the top, and so you have to be very careful. They tend to be very fragile as well. This, I don't know if you can recognize by the seed pod. This is JIMSONWEED. And it's obviously gone to seed, and it's dying, it's on its way out. That's why it's green. But it has finished its, it matured and finished its reproductive cycle, so that's ethically collected. And this is one lonely little velvet leaf, which is probably even too thin for hand drill. It looks to be like 3/8 of an inch at the base if I'm lucky. Even after I take off the cordage, the center stalk still might be too thin. But as it goes, you saw me do a preliminary cleaning of all of these and sorting. That took half an hour. Not too bad, huh? Alright, let's keep going.